Oh, here comes the bass line. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Transport Fever 2. My name is Tobal. I'm so excited to get my hands on this. It is one of my favorite games, Transport Fever 1 originally. Now this is releasing here in just a couple more days. And if you're not familiar with the game series, it is a transportation simulation. So you take on the role of a baron, a baroness who owns their own transport line. And you can move goods or people from point A to point B with all of these lovely vehicles on the screen through various points in history. So we're going to jump in here, and I want to show you kind of like what different areas are in the map, what settings are here, what's changed between, you know, this version of the game and the last version that you played, if you played it. So we're going to be doing temperate. I don't really want to do an island. We're going to do a nice temperate setting. And you can also modify how much hilliness, how much water is on the map as well, which is kind of cool. So you can make a really hard challenge for you, kind of like the, yeah, there we go, as we're going up into the Rockies or something in the United States. So very, very challenging, or you can kind of tone it down a little bit. Now, the settings that I have over here, we have the ability to change the map size. This is the ratio. So basically, instead of being an even square map, 16 by 16, it's going to have it more vertical. So this one is a 9 by 27, the same, size, but it gives you kind of like, it makes you really feel like you have this transportation empire stretching from one end of the country to the other, or maybe like a state, I don't know. We're also going to do very high amount of cities and a high amount of industries. You can see 25 towns and 163 industries, so very, very busy map. Now, we're going to be able to set the theme. This is where you're going to change, set the theme for your entire game. So if we pick Europe, it'll be European vehicles, European city names, and then kind of like this temperate grasslands look. The cool thing is you can kind of customize it if you want, which I like to do. And we're going to use the European town names. However, we're going to steal some Asian trains, is what I want to do. So we're going to say that we had a spy. One of our spies from Her Majesty's finest service went over to Japan and stole the technology of the bullet train. However, it is only 1850. So I will be starting from the early game. But there are some tricks to skip forward in time a bit. But we're going to kind of jump in. I want to show you the basics of the game if you're just getting started and try to point out what the differences are between this version and the last. Hey, there we go. All right, so first things first, what I'm going to do right away is pause the simulation speed down here in the corner so that time doesn't pass. Welcome to the game. Thanks for that welcome message. So yeah, this is the engine. This is Transport Fever 2. Take a look. It's very similar if you've played Transport Fever 1. The engine looks very similar, right? It's very smooth. It looks really good, actually, especially with how close you can kind of zoom down to ground level and watch the action on the streets. And surprisingly, for being a game, that takes place, I would say, from a pretty high level, the character models aren't too bad, like your little people roaming around the streets. You'll also watch your cities grow. So buildings will replace themselves with, like, maybe this residential house might be replaced with more of a tenement style building or something like that. So over time, as you help these cities grow, you're going to watch them actually physically change and expand. So let's take a look one thing real quick. You'll notice that this little icon above the city saying that they want wrenches and gears. Well, this is basically tools and machinery or machines. Now, every town wants 2 goods. I don't know if that's going to be modded or not. It may be something that they can just accept anything. If you can get anything to this city, they're going to be happy. But right now, the city only wants a supply of tools and machines. So the idea is if you start supplying them with what they want, they're going to give you a population growth boost. Not only are they going to pay you, but the city's going to grow and thus want more of that good. Now there's also the public and private transportation as well. So as if you set up a passenger empire, for example, you'll be helping the city grow because, hey, you're finding people jobs from, Castleford over here to Ilminster. So you're kind of helping the cities grow by helping people move from point A to point B. There's also some negative things. So if your transportation network is causing a lot of noise, they're going to be a little bit grumpy and have a kind of a negative. So I guess you're leaving like too much horse poop in the roads, and they're very upset about that. So there we go. We've got that part taken care of. I want to also talk about the super fancy new time mechanism or speed mechanism. Now there's a simulation rate time control here, or speed control. So this is how fast the vehicles will actually move from point A to point B. So if we unpause the game, are there any like carriages on the road here that I can take a look at real quick? No one's got their private carriages out for a drive apparently. So if you got a train or you've got a horse and buggy or something, and it's moving across the map, it's going to move much faster if you have the simulation set to this. Now, I don't think, let's see, it is changing the speed of the game. So the game has a base speed rate, like the days pass at a certain time. So if you speed up the simulation, it speeds up the date, progress as well. Not only that, you can actually change the speed of how the date progresses. So for example, if you absolutely hate the early game, or 1850 or something in particular, you can change the date to ×4, and then you'll see the days are flying by as you kind of speed up the simulation. Or if you really like the year you're in, or kind of like me, you're stuck at some point and you want to build up your income, you can pause the date part of the game and then speed up the simulation. And I think what it does is it repeats the last month over and over and over again. So you're trapped in this horrible, horrible Groundhog Day of a month, rather, Groundhog Month. And so you're kind of just doing the same thing over and over. So you continue to get money. However, your maintenance rates don't go up. I don't think the cities grow either. So you're just kind of, you're frozen where you're at that last month. So there we go. We've got some of the mechanics out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and leave the game paused for a moment. And I'm going to let the simulation run because I like to see the people walking around. So what I do when I start is I take a look at where the big cities are. Now, by the way, if you're familiar with Transport Fever 1, the UI, honestly, they've redesigned the UI. All your favorite stuff is there. It honestly just feels a little bit more controlled, a little bit nicer. Everything's a little bit sharper. You still have all the statistics you might want. You're still able to look at your, finances, your charts, stuff like that. I don't know what the headquarters does yet. So, that stuff is still there. But it seems like a little bit smoother, which is what I would expect from, the second iteration of a game. Let's go into the city list, and we're going to search by size of city. So we're going to find the biggest cities here. Royal Tunbridge Wells, and is it Puntland? Puntland? Puntland. All right, so we're going to go to these cities. I'm trying to see if any of them are close together, because when they're close together, especially the big cities, that's often a pretty lucrative passenger route. So you want tools and machines. You want tools. Wow, all three of these cities down here all want tools and machines, which could be a very lucrative trade network if we were ever able to get all those resources delivered. And honestly, you can see, if you're taking a look on the left side here, this is how an industry works. It takes a raw material, it turns it into something, which then gets turned into something more. So this is going to provide logs, which gets turned into planks, and planks are then turned into tools. And from tools, then we can deliver them to all of our lovely cities here. Machines are a little bit harder, I think. Where's the machine at? I'm trying to see they're right here. So you need planks and steel in order to make machines, and steel is made by combining, right here, steel mill. You need to combine coal and iron into steel. Now, we're not going to do a crazy, complex cargo line off the bat. I want to do something relatively simple. So I look for a couple of things. I normally look for a passenger route that's really easy. And remember, this is not only just a train game. You can also have horses and carriages, and then, in later years, of course, trucks and buses running goods from point A to point B. So I see, for example, right here, a nice three-way road network of passenger transport. So having our horses and carriages take people from Arlesey to Kempton to Saffron Weston, or Walden rather. So that could be a really nice network we'll set up early on. The other thing I do is look for something really simple, which you can see right here. We've got a farm, which will then take food or grain, turn it into food, and then it can be delivered to a town. Now, the towns only want a certain amount per year, by the way. So early on, especially with smaller cities like Southwick, you're going to probably outstrip your demand. So keep that in mind. Don't spend a lot of money if your city can't really use a lot of what you're about to kind of create. Now, in theory, we could do this and deliver some goods to Southwick and set up a train network running along here over to Pocklington, because Pocklington also wants food as well. But let's keep going along the way here. I like the river, and I never really used the river transportation in Transport Fever. So maybe this time around, there seems like there's less bridges. And also the bridges do seem high enough. And I even think if we look at the overlay, there's a navigable water here, overlay, which tells you if your ships can pass underneath it. So your ships can, by default, pass underneath this. So that'll be helpful early on if you wanted to set up a cool little transportation network on Nevada. What else we got? We got any more food networks? So there is Ellesmere Port. Westbury, I think, was a big town. Unfortunately, it only wants... This is not bread, actually. These are goods and fuel. So fuel... This is a pretty simple run right here. So fuel, or crude, crude into oil refinery, then oil into fuel, and then we could deliver the fuel right here. That's a pretty simple loop. And it actually could go on a loop too, because it's got a pretty, like around this little hill here. So loop up, pick up a good, drop off and pick up, drop off. That way your train's always doing something instead of going from like here to here and then having nothing on the way back. That could be a pretty easy early game setup with just fuel. Too bad any other, well, there's Potent over here, Potten, which also wants some fuel. You know what? What about this one? How big is this? Dang it, all these cities are really small. The ones that have the easy setup, I would say, like the ones that want bread, are all really, really small cities. Wasn't there, so Kempton, okay, that was another one, and all the ones down here are bigger as well. New Biggin by the Sea wants food, and that is a kind of a bigger looking city. Unfortunately, of course, we don't have any food processing. Like, it's up this hill. Let's take a look at another overlay. This is the elevation, yeah, so it is up on a wee bit of a hill there. So it'd be harder to get the raw grain over to the food processing. Man, nothing is like super convenient on this map. So here's what we'll do. We're going to set up that nifty little three-way passenger route by tram, or sorry, by horse and carriage. We'll do tram stuff later on. So all we're going to do to start things out is we are going to go under the vehicle or the road button here. I'm going to set down a bus stop. Now, I'm going to make it very basic. Like, people are going to have to walk everywhere in town. Now, what you're seeing when everything highlights in white, this is the catchment area of your building. So everyone who's in the white highlighted buildings, which is the entire town of Arsley or Arlesay, is going to be able to go to your bus stop and use it. And they're happy with it. So we're going to put this right here. Okay, that's one bus stop. We're going to go over to the town of Kempton. I'm still going to use this center, like, as central as I can get it, is what I'm going to try to do. That way, as many people as possible are serviced here. So we'll put a stop right here. Now, there is an idea and a strategy where you kind of set up a taxi service inside of a town. And you kind of have multiple stops in the town, and then people kind of use your main bus stop that's between cities to move there. But we don't really want to I don't want to do taxis just yet. I've had a little bit of weird luck with taxis so far. They've really not been as lucrative as I thought they would be, especially when you're combining them with a passenger train line. So, for example, if we want to go from New Biggin by the Sea to Arlesay, it's a pretty easy route. It's around this hill here and up. I've done, in Transport Fever 1, it was harder to make the passenger lines lucrative early on. I had good luck before, but then, like, just another game ago, I had no luck at all, and nobody was using my passenger line. So it's all about demand and how well you are providing the service there. So we're going to also throw down a road depot. I'm going to throw this kind of in the middle, because we're going to have trains, or not trains, sorry, trucks and horses and carriages going all over the place. Right, so we have all the stops we need. Now we have to set up the actual route itself. So we're going to go into this line manager, and we're going to set up independent lines. So we're going to have a line going from Arlesay here, over here. I don't remember which town this is. We're going to set up a line going from here to here. And so we're going to have that on all, pretty much through all cities, right? So we only need those two, I think, right? So we're going to go from here to here. And they'll always find, no, you know what? We need one going from Broadway to the Avenue. Okay, and I think that's pretty much all the possible routes, right? So this city can go here. This city can go here. That's all the routes we really need. So the way I name these routes, and this is going to be important, you find your own method of naming them, but I normally use T for truck, and it would be R if it was a rail transport, truck, passenger, and then I say this is Arlesay, so A-R-L, hard to say, and then over to B-R-O for broad. So that's just at a glance, and I try to keep them a similar color. I may do it like an off color every so often, but it helps me at a glance know exactly what that line is doing. So the fact that it's got these little open brackets means that it's a two-way road with passengers on it between the two locations. So Kempton here. God, this music is so funky. It's awesome. All right, let's do final one here is Saffron over to Kempton. Wait, did I nail the cities wrong? Did I do Broadway? I did. This is supposed to be Saffron. Saffron Weldon. Okay, SAF. Saf. All right, perfect. So we know all three routes. We are going to have a lot of people on these routes. So I'm going to go early on, pretty heavy, with 10 passenger. Is that too many? Let's do 7. Why not? A nice uneven number. So I'm going to buy 7 of the passenger vehicles. You have to be careful when you're buying the vehicles that you choose the right kind. So it says what cargo type is there in the menu. And in order to assign these 2, you can see they're in the depot right now. To assign them to a route, we're going to click this set line button. If you don't choose anything like this, it's going to just set all of them that are in here to whatever you choose. So we're going to do RL Chem first. And then we're going to get 7 more. And then we'll adjust over time based on how the demand is. So RL Chem has been satisfied. We've got the second one all set. And finally, last but not least, oh my God. Can we talk about the fact that I just bought 71 horse and buggies here? Are you kidding me? And unfortunately, I don't think there's an undo button. Oh, sweet mother of goodness. You know what that means? We're going to have a lot more passenger routes. That's fine. This is fine. No big deal. We're going to just, on the fly, we're going to go with 7 vehicles, like we said before, over to SAF Chem. And I'm going to start making some more bus routes because we have a lot of horse and carriages that are just going to be sitting here otherwise. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to expand a little bit farther. We're going to go with Newbigin by the Sea. I really hope these will be lucrative. And generally they are. Everyone likes to travel by carriage early game. That's a really safe and easy way to move people between cities. So let me do this for a bit. Let me try to clean up my mess. And I will be right back once I finish trying to assign as many vehicles as possible to a new network. Make the best of it. There we go. This is our glorious, glorious truck empire. Our horse and carriage empire on its way to make us fame, glory, and a crap ton of money. I pretty much had to make a bunch of different routes. But in theory, we've got a nice, really long road network. So if someone from Upton upon Severn wants to go all the way to Louth, they can absolutely do that. It's just going to be quite a few stops. So there's only like here and there routes. It's not like we have like one tram or one horse that's going all the way. I normally do like, you'll see like A, B, which is basically A to B instead of A, B, C, which then returns. So we'll talk about that more when it comes to trains, because there's different ways to assign your stations or set up your trains to stop at different stations. But right now, we are hyper-focused on that sweet road network, which is going to make me bank, I hope. Now, I do have a lot of horse and carriages here sitting in the depot. However, we're going to keep those in stock in case we see a network that needs more people, basically. So what we're waiting for is you're going to start seeing, actually go ahead and just unlock the game. We'll go ahead to a quarter speed here, nice and slow, so that we progress through the years relatively calmly and not blow through like a bunch of new technology. So what you're going to start seeing is as the word spreads around town that people can suddenly go from Arlesay to Royal Tunbridge, you'll see little people icons going above your little bus stops here. And in order for that to start happening, whether it's cargo or it's people, you have to have a valid route. You have to have a vehicle bringing that good or person from point A to point B. So, for example, if we were to do steel, we'd have to have a truck or a train stop here and here and here, right? And then we would have to have a train that's stopping and loading all the appropriate stuff. You won't start seeing people gather at your bus stops, and you won't start seeing your cargo gather at the stop until you have a valid line. So if you ever wonder why you built something and your cargo, like no cargo is being dropped off at the station, or if you look at the steel mill and the shipment part is at 0, even though the production is really high, something is wrong with your network itself. So take a look, make sure that you didn't accidentally choose them to unload only, or you're trying to load the wrong thing. Right. So that's taken care of. We're going to see how that does overall. We just blew like 1.7 million in a nice cool minute. I wouldn't mind trying to experiment with the passenger train route. It would be nice to get a train route early on in this game. Is there a very simple route we could do? That could be a question too. It's almost like going back down south here. This is probably one of the better routes, especially with the fact that it's like tools, tools, tools. And the reason this is useful is that as you start using a factory or some kind of a processor, they will level up. So once they hit about 70% of whatever they're producing, as long as they're producing 70% of their max, you're shipping 70% of their max, and all of the 70% of their goods are being actually delivered to the city itself in 1 year, then they're going to level up, which means you can just keep pumping out more and more production. We could actually find, say, another raw log. God, there's no lumber mills here. There's one lumber mill all the way over here. There really is no lumber mills other than this one. That's crazy. Right up here by Portland, Pocklington, there is another one we'd have to bring all the logs down. But what I mean by that is that you're generally going to have more production here. Like they're producing 400 logs in a year. Well, we can only use a little bit of that. They can only use 200 or so. Actually, it's a 1-to-1, I think. It's if they're producing 400 logs per year, and this can use 200, it's 2 logs for every 1 plank. So in theory, that's going to be using the maximum. So you will want to look into getting another producer, like a raw producer at some point. What's another example we could look at? Southwick is just, man, it's too small for that food delivery. I have nothing nice and easy this time around. We're going to have to really fight for our kind of our runs here. Let's come up here by Ponteland or whatever this is. Someone from Pontland, let me know how we're supposed to pronounce this town's name. They also want tools and machines. We also have a nice mix up here. So inconvenient in a way, but that's okay. We're going to make the best of this situation. So here we go. You know what? This is looking really good. Very simple route. We can actually do this by carriage. We can carry logs over to the processor for planks, planks over to the factory for tools, and I might start a train line. Here we go, because Castleford wants tools as well. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the beginnings of a main line that's going to run from Pontland down through Settle all the way to Castleford. And this is going to be a mixed line. We're actually going to use passengers on this. We're going to use cargo on this as well. But right now we're going to set it up to deliver the final good, which is the machine tools here, or just tools, all the way up to Pontland. So first things first, and it is easier, in my opinion, to do, especially this close. Like when you've got something that's, you know, a stone's throw away, it's really easy to run this by truck. Now, we're going to set up the first part on the ground. So let's go ahead and go back into road. We're going to go over to the truck station, not the bus stop, but the truck station. And you can actually modify the truck station, which is kind of cool. How many stops you want left or right, how long you want the entire platform to be. I might go ahead and do 2 early on and keep it longer. It's a lot more money, though. How much is it going to be if we just do 1? That's not terrible. Let's go ahead and make the extra platforms, and we'll leave it like this. Now, when you're setting up the cargo run, you want to try to put your stop as close to the next point in your cargo run as possible, while still keeping that original building in its containment area, or its catchment area, sorry. So as you can see here, when I go right here, it's about as far down the road as we can get, and the building's still white, which means we're still going to service this building if our trucks stop here. So let us place this down. Let me also slow the game down just a bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to put down a truck stop over on this road, right on the edge, so it just gets the bare minimum. And finally, we're going to be delivering these goods over to the tool factory as well. So there we go, somewhere like right around here. Now, you know what? I'm going to go a little tighter because I do want to leave room for my train. I'm going to have a train probably running right along this space right here. So we'll keep this stop a little bit tucked in. Perfect. All right, there we go. So we have 3 truck stops all set up. Now we're going to set up some really quick lines here. So we're going to do cargo delivery from Ponteland South, which is the log producer, over to Settle North, which is the converter or the processor. So this is going to be truck, cargo, and I'm going to just say this is Settle. I normally kind of make it a little bit weird. Settle, I don't know, logs. So this is basically saying I'm delivering logs to Settle, is this line here. And then we're going to do from here over to here, which is going to be TC, and we'll say set, and also going to be, this is going to be delivering planks. Cool. All right, that's all we need to actually start this line up. Now, since the only other truck depot is like 1 billion miles away, and it's also not connected by road, I will put down another truck depot right along here, a road depot, and we are going to have to use trucks this time instead of using the passenger carriages. So we'll go into buy vehicles. This time I won't buy 70 freaking one of them. You also have to make sure every time you go back into the depot to buy vehicles, it does try to choose a different vehicle for you. So make sure you're always getting the right one. We're going to start out with 10 vehicles that are going to be delivering the raw goods. So this is supposed to be the log delivery. We're going to go with 10 vehicles as well, delivering the planks. Okay, that's just to start things off, to get that demand going, to get the factory up and running. Right, next up is going to be delivering the actual tools themselves into Pontaland, and then eventually down in all the way to Castleford. And heck, if we get this going hardcore, and this becomes our primary tool producer, we could start shipping tools from here all the way down to other big cities. Like, I mean, this is a bit of a long run, and especially early game when your technology's still not quite up to par, we probably aren't going to do something like that. But down the road, I mean, it's still tools, right? So we're still going to be able to make tools and deliver them with kind of a faster equipment. There you can already see demand starting to pile up, or supply. So they're already supplying us with logs. Right, so I'm going to extend this road out a bit because I want to put a station kind of right behind this building. And you want to be a little careful because you want to keep in mind that catchment area thing. So if we go over to trains, we're going to go to buildings and then cargo. You'll see there's a passenger station, which has a station on the side of the rail. The terminus is where the station ends. Kind of like at, if you've ever been to Chicago at the Grand Central, a lot of those are terminus lines. So that is going to be placed there. Here's our cargo station. Now I'm going to use the side station here so that our train can kind of just pass on by and continue on its way. And there we go. If you see, it's got this weird little sidewalk connector, but it is close enough that it's going to be servicing this factory. So, I don't know why this music makes me feel like I'm in space right now. It's real bizarre music. Let's go with, now, we're going to go up to Pontland, yes, but where else could we go? Westbury is not a small city. Westbury would be nice. Now, there's a bit of a hill here, though. So as we bring our line around, I think what I'm going to do is plan to wrap around Pontaland and head into Westbury down the road. I'm always trying to plan for the future, so I don't have to do a lot of rail maintenance and modification. Right, so here we go. We're going to place in and start kind of bringing our railroad out. So it's basically under the railroad or rail section. Just get your track and kind of click and drag off the end of an existing track. Now, I like to do all of my stuff in sections. The reason is, if you start to click and drag really far, sometimes is what happens is the game will detect a hill on the way, and it tries to keep your line all even. So it's going to do whatever it wants, or whatever it can, rather, in order to try to keep that elevation the same. So it can kind of mess you up a bit in terms of cost if you've got like a really super long run, right? So instead of following up the hill, like following the hill naturally and having your train go uphill, it's going to try to cut through the hill and keep it all nice and level. So I don't mind having your train go up a little bit of a, like a basic, look at that. Like, there barely is any incline along this route. But I still like to build in little sections here. So, we're going to go and keep building all the way up to Pontland. I think I'm going to put, where are the buildings that actually need the resources? Let's go to this overlay again, cargo. Okay, so all the tools need to be delivered to this side of town. Now, you don't necessarily have to put your cargo on that side of town, because you can use trucks to deliver your final goods, but it would make sense, since this is the industrial side of town, that we throw down a cargo building somewhere over here. So in fact, why don't we do this? Let's do, ooh, can this fit right in between? No, not quite. You know what? Screw it. We're going to say, sorry, not sorry. Let me turn this off. Oh, out of the view. We're going to kill some of their roads, and don't worry, we'll fix it. I'm sorry. They don't get fussy. They used to get really fussy in the old game. There we go. We're going to just build this road down and then reconnect it here. And then I will build my own train station. I like that you can just, like, completely modify a town's roads. Like, you have the supreme authority, even more over the, like, the people who actually run the town. There we go. So now we actually have a little bit of room to grow and expand our little rail system here. Perfect. Right. I will go ahead and finish the track. And keeping in mind there's a little bit of a hill here. There's also a hill over there. And then we got a pretty sharp turn. And I normally try to keep the rail as smooth as I can. And the number you see there on the rail is what the maximum speed in kilometers is on your rail network. So as we start to make sharper turns, you'll notice that number coming down. So I generally try to keep the number pretty, the number pretty high. Not that it's like, you're not going to get these speeds early on, but down the road, if you're using the same train line, then you may have the bullet trains which can go super, super fast. Hooray, there we go. So we've got our train line hooked up to our cargo station. And the only other thing is you can see that the catchment area of the train station only services the buildings that wanted, I think it was the machines, right? Yeah, so what we're going to do is put down a train stop, the truck stop. Truck station is going to go right here. I'm going to have a little bigger one just because it's going to be able to stockpile more stuff. So here comes our truck station. And what we're going to do, what's going to happen here, is we're going to deliver the final piece, which is going to be those tools, into the actual buildings that need them themselves. So our train is going to deliver the tools to this train depot. Once it hits, it's going to kind of spit them out here onto the truck station. They're going to unload from the train and drop them on the truck station. And the only other thing we need to do is drop them off, which we're going to use with a truck unload stop. And I'm going to throw this just right over here. It's really like a really huge catchment area. I really like it, actually. It's a lot of space included. So we're going to just drop everything off right here. And you know what? Just to speed things up, to help our lovely trucks out, instead of making them go all the way back, I'm going to build a little addition here. Just a little hitch turn there, and then come right on in. Not a hick turn, but a hitch turn. Perfect. All right, so we made a little adjustment to the city, and we will make one more line. Boom to the boom, and then you'll see they'll do a little bit of a loop. And this is going to be truck, cargo, Pontaland. This is Pontaland. Is it tools? Yeah, tools. So this is going to be the tool route. Actually, you know what? It could be either. So it's just going to be local. I'm just going to say local. This is the local delivery for cargo inside of Pontaland. There we go. So our route is completed. The final thing we need for this is the actual train itself, surprisingly. So we're going to throw down a train depot. We still have about 1.2 million left. We're probably going to have to take a bit of a loan here. Trains can be really, really expensive. So you want to be careful with how much you're doing early game. Right, there we go. We've got the tram depot down. I'm just going to curve it off here. This part, I don't mind that the roads are, I mean, this is just coming out of the station. We don't care too much. And I'm not going to bother with any signs or any kind of stops early game. We're going to have one train on this one track, so it's not that big of a deal. All right, finally, let's go ahead and go into the train itself. So we're going to want the Russian Class 5, the only engine available to us. And you can see here, you can actually filter down which locomotive you want. So here is the Russian. You can tell what performance it gives. Oh, they changed this recently, actually. They must have modded this. And I'm on an early access build, by the way. So, expect things to change. Expect the balance to be a little bit different later on. They've given it a little bit more power. But you can see here, it'll warn you if you add too much stuff to your car, like if you add a bunch of passenger lines, it's telling you that it's going to take forever to go a certain distance. So keep that stuff in mind. You have to really balance out the, what you're carrying with what the strength of your engine is. One cool thing, by the way, if you wanted to, you could actually add a second engine in there, on there to add to that tractive effort to give you more pulling power. So super cool, but more expensive, more maintenance. So keep that in mind. Right. We're looking for, right here actually, we're looking for boxcars. These give or can carry machines and tools, which is useful because that's what we want to deliver to the town. We're going to add, how many before we start getting poor? Okay, right there is when it goes down to the poor rating, which means it's going to really struggle and be really slow. But I also want to carry a lot in one go. We're going to start out with 4 boxcars. This is going to be, we're just under where we're at. So we're just going to be able to afford this. $1.03 million spent. We have a brand new train. And did I even set up the train line yet? No, we have to set up the train line. Let me do that real quick. This is just going to be a very simple route. Cargo here, cargo there. And we're going to call this one rail cargo. And this is going to be, I guess we could say tools into Pontaland or something like that. I do adjust this over time, and I kind of, I make up a new system or trim the system up a little bit here and there, just to at a glance to help me out. It gets confusing, but when you can go into the line manager and filter by tram or by bus or whatever, it helps you keep everything in line. The other useful thing, by the way, if you're trying to figure out what lines are nearby, use this eye here. What it's going to do is it's only going to show you stuff that's only show you lines that are in view. So instead of seeing all the stuff that's down south, we're only looking at our lines right here. Right. Last thing, but not least, we have to set our train to the line. Hooray, there we go. So at this point, the only thing we have to do is buy just a couple more trucks. Where did my truck depot go? Here we go. We're going to buy a couple more vehicles because we don't have anyone actually delivering the goods in the town. So let's grab about 5 trucks. Not enough money. I was able to buy 1. Let's go ahead and grab 1 extra loan. It's a lot of money we already have as a loan. 5 million you start with. So as you go, as you start to make a stable empire, you do want to start paying down and repaying your loan as much as possible because the interest rate stays the same you always constantly pay this much interest. The loan actually never goes down. As far as I know, the loan never goes down until you actually physically repay it. So keep that lovely fact in mind. You will continue to pay more and more money. Well, not more and more, the same amount, but it will be inconvenient for you. And let's throw in, what did I say, 4 or 5? So we're going to buy 5 more and assign them all to our pink line up there. Yep, pawn local. All right, boom, there we go. The logs are going to be delivered over here to the sawmill. The sawmill is producing over and making planks. The planks are going to be going over to the tools factory. And did we actually we have the tool factory, right? Let me take a look at my lines. Yes, we do have a tool factory delivery. We have somebody on the plank delivery. Yes, we do. We have vehicles on it right now, I think. Actually, the better route would be this one. Yeah, we have a ton of vehicles on this. So we'll start seeing planks get delivered over. I'm hitting like the number 3 to think about speeding the game up. I think it's tab. Yeah, tab will shortcut speed the game up for you. So you'll start to see more logs get delivered. By the way, when your resource gets like over 50 or so, you'll see a massive symbol instead of a smaller symbol. So this is going to take a little bit to get balanced out. Now, the goal, I mean, the perfect goal would be to use 100% of our producer, right? We use 100% of our producer over here, the processor, and keep that train going. So keep giving them as much material as possible and then selling the maximum amount. That's going to take a little bit of fine tuning. And it will take a little time as well in order to get your entire industry going as well. Yep. So we're going to leave that for just a second. All right, let's take a look at where's our other massive empire down here. I have no idea how we're doing. Oh no, my lines aren't doing that great. I kind of expected more of a demand. Are we seriously not making any money? We're making some money. Okay. Our passenger line, actually all of our passenger lines except for the Lou to Stockton here. Luth to Stockton. Everything else is profitable this year, which is good. And honestly, to be fair, I don't think I've had the game running all that long. We're still in 1850, so demand may not have built up all that much. But it does. I'm kind of surprised I don't see. Oh, there we go. You know what? I bet the names are. Yeah, there we go. The names are blocking the demand symbol. That's why I was concerned. I didn't see any little people here. We have a ton of people waiting at this stop. Very good. So that means we have a really healthy demand. And honestly, what we can do is click on Roy Arl here. I think we can go to Configure Vehicles. And then if we want Roy Arl, I think if I remember right, we had a bunch of vehicles sitting around here. Yep. So we can go, let's add 5 more to that Roy Arl line. There we go. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to find, once your system is up and running, whatever it happens to be, whether it's trains, whether it's passenger vehicles, you can go into the demand and see, where you could add a couple more vehicles or a couple more cars in order to satisfy that demand, to squeak out that extra money every year. The danger, though, comes in passenger lines because rail lines are fickle. If you have a really healthy network, say between Royal Tunbridge and Kempton here, if we have a really nice run and a lot of people are waiting to go between them, you might think to yourself, hey, let's add a second train. The problem is the demand may not be high enough to supply both trains with lots of cars. So you have to have a really, really good passenger kind of supply level before you add a second train. I always tend to go for add more box cars or add more passenger cars. You don't want your people sitting in the box cars. Add more passenger cars to your line before you wind up getting another train. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode, my friends. We're going to continue on with this early let's play tutorial / whatever you want to call it. And I do want to thank the developers for letting me have access to this early. I think at the time of this filming, it is out in 4 days. So I'm looking forward to it. I also really appreciate the fact that out of the box, the game comes with pretty good modding encouragement. So there's links to the Steam Workshop. There's a page where you can kind of choose which mods are getting loaded into the game. Healthy mod support really makes games like this extend because people can come up with some very gorgeous models. And I almost would say that one of the models for the Asian bullet train that we now see in this theme, or we're not seeing now because it's 1850, was probably from a modder. I don't know for sure, but modders have incredible talent. So a huge thank you if you are a modder and you're watching this video. Thanks for what you do. I appreciate you. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. We're going to end this episode enjoying the fruits of our labor. Let's watch one of our carriages hard at work. passing a fellow carriage, getting folks transported from point A to point B. You can see some very, very happy people here, apparently reading invisible books, fanning themselves, slapping an invisible pet. I really don't know what. Maybe they're summoning. It kind of looks like a summoning spell. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. And this lady back here is just really getting the shaft because she could have been sitting and not holding the reins. But no, she's on her own private vehicle with a very ugly looking horse compared to our very beautiful horses that look very similar. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you again in the next episode. Until then, my friends, you've been awesome. I've been Topol. Take care.